So the first thing I would do is I would notice that the degree in the numerator is 1 greater than the degree in the denominator. So I'm going to go off to the side and I know that we have a slant and we have no horizontal. The next thing I'm going to do is I know that x squared minus 4 is x plus 2 and x minus 2. The order you write these in does not matter. Okay, so I have just rewritten this function, and now this allows me to do a couple things quickly. If I take the denominator and I set the denominator equal to 0, as long as there's a variable there, I can see that 0 divided by 2 gives me an equation x equals 0. So x equals 0, this is the vertical asymptote. Our functions will never cross the vertical asymptote. Now if I come back up above and I set each one of these equal to 0, I can do that in my head. I end up with -2 and with +2. Whenever there's a variable in the numerator, we are able to determine if there's a real x-intercept, okay? If the x-intercept exists. Now if it's an I, it's not going to be an x-intercept. So we've got those two things. Let's talk about the y-intercept. If I come up here and I make this equal to 0, this is why there's no y-intercept, guys. 0 squared minus 4 is -4, but -4 divided by 0, you can't take something and divide by 0. That's why there's also no y-intercept. Okay, let's go on to the slant asymptote. Now this is where I believe I was going to trick you. Everything has to be accounted for. Make sure there's no cell phones or earbuds on, please. This is your x squared. Is there any x here? So you have to put plus 0x. Everything has to be accounted for. Everything has to be accounted for. So an example here, please watch, I have a 2x, right? But there has to be accounted for the constant. So think of it this way. This is x to the second, x to the first, x to the 0. This is x to the first and x to the 0. Now this is going to be a little bit harder to do. So let's make our dotted lines here. I'm going to underline this first part, and I'm going to underline this first part. 2x times what quantity equals x squared? Okay, this is hard. So x times what is x squared? Well, that's easy. That's x. X times x is x squared. That's easy. But what do Ms. Castro, hold on. What do I have to multiply 2 by to get it down to a 1? 1/2. So this is my selected quantity, 1/2 x. So I come up here and I write 1/2 x. And now I distribute 1/2 x times 2x. Well, half of 2 is 1, and x times x is x squared, so 1x squared. Now, 0 times anything is 0. Simple enough. Change signs, this cancels. I get 0x minus 4. 2x times what is 0x? Well, that's a 0. And I don't even need to go through, because do I care what the remainder is? I don't care what the remainder is as it applies to slant asymptotes. So y equals 1/2 x plus 0 is my equation. I start at 0, I go up 1 over 2, up 1 over 2, and I make my dotted line. And I can already see I have one approximate point in each place. So if I take this, I can go up this way and down this way. You are not allowed to use graphing calculators in graphing this or having them with you. Okay?